Dolly here. Welcome back to Gipsyrosepaperie. Welcome to all my new and current subscribers. Welcome to the Paper Gypsy tribe. Today I'm doing a video based on a member's request. Miss Ashley, hey Ashley, asked me to sort of compile a list of supplies that I would recommend for beginners. So before we keep going, 2 disclaimers. The first disclaimer, this list is based on my own opinion, on my past experience making journals, kind of flashing back to when I made my very first journal and I had feedback from some friends. So this is what this list is compiled of. Secondly, I want to say that this list by no means is a list of must-haves. I would love to see down in the comments, you guys let me know what beginner supplies you would recommend so we can get started. So the first thing that I would definitely recommend to a beginner is actually a group of things. It is binding supplies, because obviously you could not make journals if you couldn't bind, right? Even a simple 1 signature soft cover journal will require you to bind. So this is what I personally use right now. I've been using this thread for a while. I think probably my 4th or 5th journal is when I discovered this sort of, it's really more of a cord. It's a waxed flat cord and it's really stiff, see? And it keeps your signatures really nice and secure and flush against the spine, and the wax just helps it from slipping. You know, like sometimes you have those wiggly signatures. I will have the supplies linked down in the description. In no way does that mean that you have to buy any of these supplies or through the links that I provide. You could go anywhere. You could go to any of the craft stores, Walmart, Target, even Dollar Tree, and probably get the same or somewhat similar type of supply. So this is called Mandala Crafts, and I got this off of Amazon. Then I just have like regular binder clips, and this is just to hold the paper in place against the spine and the cover so that when I make the holes, they're all lined up and there's no difficulty sort of being able to bind. So these are just regular binder clips. This is the actual awl that I bought off of Amazon. Prior to this, I'll show you what I used. I have it right here actually. It's like this, We Are Memory Keepers. It's like a brad push downer. I don't know what it's called. But I got it because it had the sharp point. But if you see, I don't know if you could see that, but it's like bent inwards because I use this so much. And also, if I had a really thick signature, or actually what I ended up doing is this would limit how thick I could make my signatures because it won't poke that far, right? It's only about, you know, 1/2 inch, I would say, or maybe not even that. So that's why I upgraded to this nice long awl. The other thing that I use that is really helpful and that I would recommend to beginners is this is called a doll maker's needle, or I think it's called something else too, maybe embroidery needle. I forget the other name for it, sorry, but I know it's a doll maker's needle. But it's a really long needle, but it's really great because the needle goes through and it kind of holds the signature in place instead of a little tiny needle that you're trying to get through the other side. So again, it doesn't limit how thick your signature is with a longer needle, just like the awl. So I would recommend the longer needles. The other thing that I use, and you don't have to use this per se, but it's a lot easier, is I have a text block from an old book. It's an old Reader's Digest, but I use it as a place to sort of, I'll show you here with, let's see if I have a paper handy. Let's just pretend that this is a book, right? If it's folded in half and this is the spine. So this allows you to really kind of get in there and push down, and you're not poking yourself and you're not poking something that you don't want to scratch. It's just a nice, and it holds it in place. It's just a nice secure way to get your holes punched. The other thing I would recommend is an old book. You don't have to spend a lot of money. You can go to the Dollar Tree and get a book like this. For me, it was easier to just gut a book and use the cover instead of trying to make my own, because I just wasn't that advanced yet. What I would recommend is just keeping the inside so that you could use it as a cushion to punch your holes through. So definitely I would recommend at least one book. And now this doesn't mean you should go to a estate sale and buy like somebody's entire library. I would say as a beginner, buy one or two, right? Because you've never done them, or you've never used them, so you're not sure if it's gonna work for you. So I would say buy one. If you're like me, you would buy two, just because I'm weird like that. I need like a backup always, and see if it's something that works for you. And if it does, and you've used up your two, you can go buy more. The next thing that I would recommend for a beginner that is super versatile, you can use it for a lot of things, is file folders. Why file folders, you say? Well, file folders are made up of a nice thick cardstock. You can make tags out of them. They can be the base to a fabric covered soft journal, or even the base, like this one is a really nice pattern. I got these at Dollar Tree. You could use this standalone as like a TN cover. So they're really versatile. Again, my only words of caution is to buy in small quantities. These Dollar Tree ones come in threes and they're $1, so that would be a good buy. You can also buy the plain ones. They don't have to have patterns. The plain ones make good backings to like, you know, different types of ephemera, or as base for a certain type of ephemera. So file folders definitely are super versatile, and I would highly recommend just buy in small quantities, just like the book. I'm sure you can see I'm working in like order of book structure. So fabric. Now, fabric is a rabbit hole, people. So be careful. There are many beautiful patterns and motifs and textures. For a beginner, I would recommend you buy something simple and plain. For example, this is like a lightweight muslin. I recommend muslin specifically because muslin you can do a lot with. So for example, this is actually like, I call it art fabric. I would just use it to sop up like watercolor, but see how lovely it takes the color, even the gold on there. You can paint this with acrylic. There's a lot you can do with muslin. You can alter it. And so my reason for recommending muslin is because it's so versatile, and when you are first starting out and you're not quite sure what your style is, maybe patterned fabrics aren't your thing, but you just don't know that yet because you haven't made that many journals. So I recommend something simple. If you don't like muslin, then a cotton fabric in a color that you are attracted to, but plain would be better. You could stamp this, you could, like I said, paint it, you can emboss it. There's so much more you could do with something as basic as this, as opposed to something with a heavy pattern. And again, quantity, I would say get a half yard and see if it works for you. So yes, I recommend a plain fabric. The next thing I recommend, obviously you're gonna need paper for your journal. I don't really tend to use a lot of coffee dye paper in my journals. I really gravitate more towards scrapbook paper because I feel like with scrapbook paper you could really achieve a certain look faster, I guess. Design wise, it helps me kind of bring to fruition what I was envisioning when I started making the journal. And it also lends a little bit of inspiration because when you see the patterns and the images and all that, you sort of become inspired. You can't help become inspired, or at least I can't. If you notice, I'm recommending things that are lighter in color and that can be altered easily because, like I said, when you're first starting out and you're not sure what your style is and you're trying everything under the sun, it's going to be a lot more helpful to have supplies that have a wide range as far as being able to alter them. This is like the soft paper, not cardstock. It's like the nice soft paper, and this takes to tea dyeing and coffee dyeing really nice if that's the look that you're going for. And so definitely scrapbook paper. The next thing, or the next supply that I will recommend is, guess what? More paper. Why? Why more paper, you say? Well, because paper is awesome, one. And two, there's two different kind of papers that would be highly beneficial to someone who is starting out. The first one I showed you was just like plain regular weight paper. This one is a cardstock. I recommend just having one pad regular paper and one pad cardstock, because cardstock can do so much. Like, you can get so much accomplished with just a really nice cardstock paper pad. You can make ephemera out of this, you can make covers out of this, you can make journaling cards out of this. You can make pockets, nice sturdy pockets out of this. And specifically, do yourself a favor and get yourself a double-sided cardstock paper pad. Like this. See? Why? Why, you say? Because when you're using this for covers and when you're using this for like those pocket pages, you know, with the nice deep folders, it is so much less work and time and energy and frustration to already have both sides patterned beautifully. You don't have to worry about, should I coffee dye this first? You don't have to worry about, well, should I back this with paper? Should I stencil? Should I stamp? Should I glimmer mist? Should I whatever? It is so much easier and so much more time efficient to have a double-sided cardstock paper pad. And that's just my own personal opinion. But yeah, definitely recommend this type of paper. Okay, the next thing that I'm gonna recommend is stamping or distressing or whatever you want to call it. I recommend two types, distress ink. And the reason I recommend distress ink is you can use it to distress like your ephemera if you want a grungier, more vintage look. Same thing with your pages. The other ink that I recommend is stamp ink. I specifically recommend Ranger Archival ink. Why, you ask? Well, Archival ink is waterproof and it's permanent. Especially if you're making journals to sell, you want to use something that is quality so that images that you stamped in there don't fade, that kind of thing, because someone is paying you and you want to provide a quality product. I always use black. I've tried other colors, but I always go back to black. You can use whatever color you like. Archival ink comes in a large range of colors. But I like my black. I've had this for years. The pad, as you can see, is in really good condition. I mean, there's some pilling on the top, but other than that, it is perfectly a-okay. The next thing I'm going to recommend is, you guessed it, stamps. So, stamps. I love stamps, even before the whole stamp controversy thing. I think they add a lot to your journal. They can turn a blank page into something special. Obviously, be cautious and get something that if you're gonna sell, you can use to sell. And so that's why I'm holding here a Stampers Anonymous, to be specific, because Stampers Anonymous has an awesome angel policy, which I will link down in the description box. Obviously, this is highly specific. It's Halloween, but if you've watched my channel, I love me some Halloween. And so I make a lot of those types of journals. And sometimes I will use these even if it's not a Halloween journal. So get something that you know will appeal to you and that you will use a lot. So definitely stamps if that's the look that you're going for. The next thing I'm going to recommend, and by no means does yours have to be this big, is a paper cutter. Now, is it a must? No. But will it make your life easier? Absolutely. Will it cut down your frustration level by 10,000%? Absolutely. You can use a scissor, but unless you want your hand to fall off after like the 4th journal that you've made, get yourself a paper cutter. Now, I'm saying it doesn't have to be this big. However, I did start off with a smaller paper cutter, and then I moved up to a not so small paper cutter, and then I moved on to this one. So yes, this is big and it's probably an eyesore in your craft room, but I would say get one that can at least measure 12 by 12 paper. That's probably my best piece of advice when it comes to a paper cutter. So yeah, definitely a paper cutter, absolutely. And finally, more Tim Holtz stuff. It is Tim Holtz stuff, but really when I'm trying to show you is embellishments. You're gonna need little things here and there to add interest to your journal. Those of you that are interested in embellishing and adding little quirky things and stuff like that, I recommend Tim Holtz Ideology products. First, it's because they're visually appealing. The second reason is convenience and, again, quality. So like if you were to cut these out, like let's say you go to Pinterest and you find all these individually, and then you have to save them all into a Word document, and then you're gonna have to print that Word document out, and then you have to cut them all out and then distress them, and that's gonna take a lot of work. This is so much easier. Tim himself does live shows where he crafts live, and he will make crafts, or he will like showcase certain people on his Instagram that have made crafts with his stuff, and it's really like amazing the things that people make, and it's really inspirational. And so if you're a beginner, like you're not sure where to start, that would be really helpful. I know it was really helpful to me to kind of see how other people use things themselves. So that is why I recommend Tim Holtz. We will put this back later. And lastly, I really love Sari Silk. Sari Silk is just, what can I say about Sari Silk? I don't know what it is about it. I think it's the texture. I think it's like the way it picks up the colors, like just all these variations of the color, and just the look itself, just very sort of shabby, very junk journal-y, if you will, right? Because junk journals are kind of shabby, chic-y, shabby. So I would recommend this like for a simple closure. You don't have to attach it. I often do that with my TNs. It's just like do a simple Sari closure. Or you could use it in hardcovers. I would probably just, you know, get some seam binding in there underneath the inside covers and use that as a closure. So that is it. That's a lot of stuff, probably, I feel like. I hope it's not too overwhelming for you guys that are beginning. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't boring and long and not confusing and not overwhelming. If you have any other suggestions for videos, please let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear. So again, thank you so much for watching. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!